Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could teach the gullible to never be so comfortable with lies they eat like comfort food? To disregard the bogus claims and pseudoscientific claims. Can you imagine just how much indeed the world would change? No more political predators playing on the populace, but ilkas and plots to shift and kill metropolis. No more villains with the title in the Bible, holding phony temper Bibles like the stuff they teach is vital. Imagine it was normal to have to prove a claim you make. And folks really feel ashamed to express some content that was fake. It's not to say we never make mistakes, it's just to say we go out of our way to show the evidence it takes.
Remain skeptical while you travel the road of reason. Stay strapped with logic and facts. That's what it is, yo. Keep reality intact to help the truth grow. Question every claim, especially the ones you believe in. Remain skeptical while you travel the road of reason.
Everybody, welcome to Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century. I'm Rob Penzak. I'm a physician turned writer, the founder of Saved by Science, and the executive director for Atheist Alliance of America. And today I'm joined by Tiffany Harding, who's going to tell you about the great guest we have on.
So I'm Tiffany Harding, and we have a really interesting guest. He's actually one of my favorite YouTubers. He's the president of the Atheist Alliance, the director of the Phylogeny Explorer Project. We were having problems pronouncing that word. He's a science educator, a YouTuber, and an author, and his name is Aron Ra, and I'm very happy to be speaking to him about, well, this is his book.
Right, the Foundational Falsehoods of Creationism.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. But first we have some announcements.
Sure. So we're going to do a few announcements, a little bit of news, and then we're going to try to get through this kind of quickly so we can spend most of the show with Aron. So in terms of announcements, first, Atheist Alliance, we're looking to do things with Road to Reason in the future. So we're very excited about kind of building that partnership. We want to announce a few new advisors that are coming onto the staff for Atheist Alliance. First, we got Buck Bowen, who's a skeptical rapper and lyricist. Michael Langer, who's a Brazilian filmmaker, media personality, producer in Brazil. Karen Garst, the faithless feminist, who's author of Women Beyond Belief. Jason Callahan, who's the only board-certified American Humanist Association endorsed chaplain, and he's working to get street epistemology and humanism sort of taught to chaplaincy students and also to some medical personnel in the medical system that he works in. And finally, Candace Gorham, who's a counselor with a background in mental health. She's the author of Ebony Exodus Project. She's in the Secular Therapist Project and also the Clergy Project. So we're really excited to have those 5 people coming on board and looking forward to doing great things with them.
I interviewed her earlier this year.
That's right. So Candace was on the show. Karen Garst has been on the show. Michael Langer, we're hoping to get on the show. Jason's going to be doing a show with me in Richmond. And Buck Bowen, we would love to get on the show too. So these are really cool people that have done a lot for the secular community. We're really excited to work with all these people. I want to mention that Secular Nation magazine, something the Atheist Alliance is working on. We're going to be putting out the next edition, probably the end of January, very beginning of February. We have a bunch of excellent people from Atheist Alliance, including Aron Ra, Peter Boghossian, John Loftus, Phil Torres, Candace Gorham, Karen Garst. I mean, the list goes on and on. Outside of that, we probably have another 15 or more big people in the community that are contributing. So Guy Harrison, Craig James, Donald Prothero, Hemant Mehta, Ron Miller of the Freethought Equality Fund, Win LeGros, Herb Silverman, Julian Mussolini, Phil Zuckerman, Chris DiCarlo, Dale McGowan, Andy Thompson, our own Larry Mendoza from Road to Reason, and perhaps something from singer and songwriter Shelley Segal and comedian Ian Harris. So this is going to be a really great publication. We would love to get, we're trying to unite a lot of people in the secular, skeptical, atheist, humanist, and scientific communities, and we hope this is going to be a good platform. We're going to be running a critical thinking area, street epistemology area. We're going to have something on climate change. We're going to be doing a contest to hopefully involve the Secular Student Alliance. So we're looking for great things. We're really excited. We appreciate all those contributions from people around the community. What else do we need to talk about here?
No, it's all you, man. Go ahead.
No, let's jump again. Let's keep our time moving. Let's jump to a couple news stories. We'll come back to the secular person and we'll move on.
I have just a few news stories today. There's a new documentary coming out called The Cut, which is exposing female genital mutilation worldwide. There's a very interesting article in The Guardian this week about Miss Renee Bernstrom, who is featured in the documentary, and she talked about how back in the 1940s, she herself was mutilated because her parents thought the 3-year-old girl was masturbating. And so out of their Christian community, one thing they would do is they would take their children, their daughters, to these church clinics to have their clitorises removed. And she talks about how this happened in America, this happened in a white evangelical Christian community. It's not just something that only happens in Southeast Asia or Africa where girls and young women have these horrible procedures done on them. It's a very interesting thing. She said, I remember the excruciating pain and feeling betrayed, and I was told not to talk about it. But to keep the secret meant that she would be alone in her questions as she grew into her puberty, as what was she was missing and what would it take for her to be whole again. So it's a very interesting documentary and a very interesting article. I would suggest everyone to check it out if you want to be depressed for a few minutes.
Yeah, and that's something that occasionally people will compare that and say, well, it's just like guys getting circumcised. But it really isn't. Anatomically, it's sort of like cutting off the penis. It really is a big deal. And the way these are done, at least in other countries, they'll have the women do it. So the moms, the grandmothers, the aunts will carry the child off who's screaming and terrified if they know what's going on, hold her down, pry her legs open, use like a glass shard or some primitive thing. This is really horrific stuff. And to take the approach, well, that's not our culture, so we shouldn't be concerned.
But it is.
Right.
You see?
Right, and so even if when it's not, it's terrible, but yes, this is really courageous for this woman to come out and say, you know what, this can happen to our culture too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great article.
It is very interesting, and all because they were afraid that she was masturbating at 3 years old.
Right.
Moving on. So this week, the International Humanist and Ethical Union released their annual report, and this is the 5th report they've released. It's called the Freedom of Thought Report, and it's about discrimination and persecution of free-thinking peoples. And they have cited some of the worst countries to be a free thinker in. And in their report, still, today, in 2016, we have 19 countries where you can be punished for leaving your religion. They outline 12 countries where you can be executed for leaving your religion, 55 countries with anti-blasphemy laws. 39 of those countries will send you to prison for blasphemy, and 6 of those countries will sentence you to death. So then we're talking about, we all know about the struggles of religion against religion, but non-religion is also something of a detriment if you are in these countries. So,
and it's not in any minor way. You're right. You
No.
can be stoned. You can be killed. And, and then there's all sorts of things below that. But it really is a significant problem. And so when people wonder why is it important to be activists, why is it important to speak up, why can't we just get along? It's not generally atheists that are out there trying to execute people for having religious beliefs. It's much more the other direction.
Yeah, and of course the old, you have Iran, you have Syria, you have other countries that have blasphemy laws like Nigeria. It's very, very interesting. And the fact that almost, a fourth, maybe even more of countries have these laws. It's very interesting.
And then you look at the U.S. with the potential for a Christian dominionist running as a vice president.
I don't want to think about
it's really, people should be frightened, and it's appropriate to be frightened.
I agree.
What's coming down the pipeline.
So that is the International Humanist and Ethical Union Freedom of Thought Report. Just came out this week. Check it out. And that's the news for now.
Alrighty. So we're gonna jump right now. So for Person of the Week, we're going to do a couple people. It's actually Justin Clark and Jeremy Casey. These are 2 brand new podcasters for Atheist Alliance's Secular Nation podcast, and they have a wonderful background that covers kind of science, politics, religion from the inside, critical thinking. They've done a couple of shows. They're doing an absolutely fabulous job, so I really appreciate the work that they're putting into this as a really high quality thing. You can find this on the Atheist Alliance site. I'm going to get Aron a little later to kind of chime in on that because he's the one that found these people and we're really excited to have them.
Where can we find these podcasts?
Well, so if you go to atheistallianceofamerica.org, we'll have those on there. You can find them. If you go to Aron Ra's site, I think he's going to be promoting all of these.
Okay.
They've got excellent quality. We're really excited. There is nothing funny going on in America right now, so
we don't have no joke.
Yeah, there's no joke of the week this time.
There's no joke.
We're going to go to our public service now and we'll be right back with Aron Ra.
One of the goals of an atheist community is to provide support for those who find themselves without faith in light of mounting evidence against unfounded beliefs. Organizations with this goal range from skeptic groups to humanist service meetups to support groups for those who may have lost a community through their deconversion. In response to this, Recovering from Religion, an organization that seeks to support those who have left their faith, has recently launched the Hotline Project. This is not a deconversion hotline. The motive behind the project is to support a growing population of people who have left their faith and need to construct their identities around a new, beautiful reality. If you want more information, you can visit the Recovering from Religion website at recoveringfromreligion.org.
Good.
Homemade noodles. Oh. Marty, stop it. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. It reminds me, I've been thinking maybe we should try a new form of birth control. I heard about this one, it's called the IUD, intrauterine device. Or we could try the patch on your arm. Actually, I think that one goes in your butt.
Bedsider.org has birth control information and a lot more. And it's...
What do you think then? Arm or the butt?
There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
This is Richard Dawkins. Doing commercials is unfamiliar territory for me, but I'm inviting you to watch Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century, on Fairfax Public Access every Sunday. Each week, the hosts tackle wishful thinking, religion, pseudoscience, and the harm they cause, with a combination of facts, humor, and community involvement. They challenge believers to defend their faith and give you, the skeptic, a voice. With live call-ins for viewers and streaming on the World Wide Web, there's never a dull moment. Don't wait. Look at them now on Facebook and YouTube, and remember to watch Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century, or there'll be hell to pay.
All right, thank you. Tiffany doing her best impersonation of Richard Dawkins.
Hello, I'm Richard Dawkins.
All right.
Sorry.
So we're back. Welcome back to Road to Reason. We're now joined by Aron Ra. Aron is an outspoken atheist activist, a science educator, the author of Foundational Falsehoods of Creationism. He put together probably the hands-down best YouTube series I've ever seen of the same name on the foundational falsehoods that really put him on the map. He's the host of the Raw Men podcast. He's a soon-to-be candidate for Texas State Senate, and I'm really happy to say that he's the president of Atheist Alliance of America. So, Aron, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you for having us. So, I mean, thank you for coming to join us.
Yes, you're welcome to join me on your show.
So, I wanted to ask the first question. A lot of people, like myself, we start out wanting to learn as much as we can about science and evolution. And then we also hear on the other side, people saying, no, it's creationism and this is the way it should be. When and how did you decide to no longer be a bystander and to actually get up and challenge this wrong education? When did you decide?
It was hard for me to believe that people believe what they claim to about creationism. I'm sure that there's quite a few people, especially in the paid positions or the leadership positions within the creationism movement, who know full well that it is all make-believe and that's all it actually could be. I mean, if you listen to people like Ken Ham, for example, I mean, he says, if you want to believe in salvation, which is the second half of the Bible, then you have to believe in creation, which is the first half of the Bible. So he then talks about this cognitive bias, that he has called, or confirmation bias, where he calls God glasses. Mm-hmm. You put on your God glasses and then you can just dismiss any evidence against you. This is openly dishonest. Mm-hmm. Now, he may not even realize that, but it is dishonest. He's telling himself to disregard facts, to me, the truth is what the facts are.
Right.
So if you don't care what the facts are, then you don't care what the truth is, and you're going to make believe something else. And I found myself just fortunately happening, that I live in Texas. I discovered that the Texas State Board of Education was leading into infamy about what they were doing about the school board, changing the science books, changing the history books, changing social studies, sex education, all that to fit their religious agenda. And of course, science was just the first thing that I picked up on. And I realized that I had a voice through YouTube now, where, I mean, I could make these little messages, these little 10-minute videos explaining things to people that didn't have a lot of college education, perhaps, maybe didn't have a lot of attention span, maybe, or a lot of time. Because what you get with religion is you get people coming door to door, and twice a week in your congregations, you've got people that are continuously drumming out this message and putting little tracts under the windshield wipers of your car.
Yeah.
They want to get everybody who doesn't know better already, right, to believe their way. And then they get angry at anybody who's trying to do education and say, well, let the kids make up their own mind. Whoa, what a spectacular idea. Let's teach them what we can prove to be true first. And then when they get to college, let's have some guy standing in the hallway saying, hey, did you know that snakes and donkeys can talk and that magic words can cause things to poof out of nothing? You know, how many people are going to believe in creation if they weren't fed it when they were 4 years old through 7 years old first, right? I mean, how many people could grow up not being religiously indoctrinated and then have this absolute nonsense drummed into their head?
Well, so Aron,
go ahead.
Can you jump in your book? I think it was in your book, unless I saw somewhere else, where you talk about you were a little naive, I think, in your first approach to, and I think maybe Lilandra was in part of this, where you thought, okay, I can bring the correct educational material, and I thought if it was with the school board or if it was with more legislation, and once I present this clear case and both sides see it, we're going to make some good progress here. And you ran into a lot of stuff
where naivety, yes.
Yeah, so can you run through that story a bit about some of the dishonesty on the other side?
Yeah, we all tend to think that other people are the way we are, right? I mean, this is why I think that liars are very suspicious that other people are lying to them. This is why thieves lock their doors. They all think that everybody else is like them. And I honestly thought that people believed whatever they believe for a reason.
Right.
And that if I inquire, well, why do you believe that? People are going to give me the facts that indicate that point. And I would be able to see, well, this is how you got to this position, but did you know this, or are you aware that this isn't actually true, or what have you? This is the kind of reason that I was expecting to get from people, and instead, what I get is, why would I want to believe that? I want to believe that I'm going to live forever. I want to believe that if everything goes wrong, that there's somebody I can tap into who can make 2 + 2 = 5 if he has to.
Right.
I want to believe what I want to believe, and then when I would start correcting people, I would get the response, well, why can't I believe what I want to believe?
Right.
And this is on things that they now know to be false. I've given the explanation to prove that the thing that you just said is false. I'm fully expecting that people are going to go, oh, that's false? Okay, well, never mind. I'll make sure never to say that again. But that's not what happens with religious believers.
So
they don't. I'm talking about people that were running the Board of Education, that are heading education for other people's kids. When I show that something that they're proposing is completely flat out wrong, I should get, oh, well, we can't say that anymore. What about this one? Let's look at the, you've won on this point. Let's look at this other point. No, that's not what happens. We're going to keep teaching what we know to be false.
Right. That because the one thing I noticed watching a video of you at the Ark Encounter. Did you enjoy that, by the way? But,
that was a bucket of chuckles.
One thing I noticed that Ken Ham seems to say, it's always about God's law, these laws, and if we didn't have them, then, I could just do anything. So it has nothing to do with science. It seems to have something to do with trying to fix people's behavior. Do you see that also?
It's trying to manipulate people. It's trying to extort their tithe.
Right.
It's having a way without needing a police or other oppressive authorities like that to manipulate people and get them to do what you want, and get them to pay you for ruling them, and get them to treat you as if you're not only an authority on shit you don't know, on things you don't know anything about.
Remember, keep language clean.
Don't remind us.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot about my venue. Sorry. Not only do religious leaders get to pretend that they're authorities when they actually don't know anything of what they're talking about. There's not one religious leader that actually knows what they profess to know.
Right.
It is as dishonest as it could possibly be. But at the same time, they're also held in this high regard as if they were leaders, as if they were authoritarian. Well, they are authoritarian, but as if they were authorities, right? They're not authorities.
Right.
You know, my magic imaginary friend told me so.
Yes.
So I'm right, and facts be damned.
Yep.
That's the religious position. And then they get to be held like they're in a higher level of moral esteem at the same time.
Right.
For what reason? Oh, because I believe impossible nonsense for no good reason, and that makes me better than you.
Yep. No, you go ahead.
So I want you to, this came up during one of our Dragon Con talks, and there's two different sides to this, but there was one thing we were talking about where you had an interaction with like a young kid, and you were trying to say, well, it doesn't work that way. You're trying to set them straight, and they got upset. But I want you to just talk about when, you know, if the institutions are really poisoning kids' minds, and then it's going to ruin their critical thinking throughout their life, and, you know, eventually we'll have terrible social policy because we don't have a, you know, scientifically literate and critical thinking community. Who is doing the real harm? You know, those institutions, or somebody who, even if it is challenging and say, well, you know, your parents are wrong on this, like, you come to me, I'm going to be truthful. Can you just talk about that? Because I'm sure you're in this situation a lot where you can either be, you know, you go along, you don't ruffle feathers, or you speak the truth. You know, what's your position on it?
And therein lies the problem, right? So it's perfectly all right to tell other people's kids that their parents are going to hell,
right?
That they're going to burn roast forever, that their ancestral religious beliefs are false, and that only yours is correct. And we've got laws set up here in Texas now so that teachers can share their religious beliefs with their students.
Really? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Good work.
It's called
good
the
work.
Merry Christmas Bill.
Oh.
Yeah, it's designed to out non-Christian teachers so that Christian teachers can teach their classes all about their religious belief during the holidays, and non-Christian teachers are expected to do the same thing. But if you aren't in the main or popular religion, then it would be best to keep your mouth shut so that you don't get public outcry.
I've never heard of this.
It's the most ridiculous law. It's not the most ridiculous law. The most ridiculous law is one we just passed, when we now have to have funerals for abortions and miscarriages.
Oh my goodness. So
because that's the way religion is.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous and absolutely wrong and absolutely horrific, all at the same time. I'm an anti-theist because religion isn't just wrong, and it is wrong. It is a statement of fact to say that there is no truth to any religion, because there's not one statement that people claim to know that you can actually show to really be true.
Right.
And the truth is whatever you can show to be true, to me. That's the way I define it. The truth is whatever is concordant with reality. What part of talking snakes and donkeys and flying horses is concordant with reality?
I can think of one.
Define talking.
Yeah, it's
So that people think that you're supposed to have religion so that people will be good and moral. Well, if that's the case, then why is it that the countries with the highest crime rate or the most violent crime tend to be the ones where religion is at the highest, and the most peaceful, the more tolerant countries, the more liberal countries, the lower crime rate countries are the ones where religion virtually doesn't have any existence.
Yep.
And the same thing goes on in the United States. The states with the highest religiosity are the states with the highest crime rate. The tendency is, it's not 100%, but yeah, that's you can see the statistical trend.
Yeah. You say that in your book on page 173 that no, seriously, because I just folded that down because I was going to ask you about that. Why is it that the most religious countries and the most abstinence-only educated states have so much repeat teen pregnancy, you say? You know, and the country. In one of my presentations,
I said that religion reverses everything.
Yeah.
Because it really does. I mean, it turns all reality upside down. Now, you've got where critical thinking is banished, and it's not encouraged like it's supposed to be. But instead, if you're critical analytical thinker, you're really trying to understand the way things are. That is prohibited in the Bible.
Right.
And instead, the Bible says that, that wisdom is foolishness. Now, if you get any other definitive source other than the Bible, you're going to find out that a fool is one who too readily accepts improbable claims from questionable sources on insufficient evidence. So it's not surprising that the Bible and the Quran use the exact opposite definition for what a fool is.
A fool in his heart says there's no God.
Exactly.
Yep. So,
professing to be wise, they became fools.
Isn't that convenient? Isn't that just the most convenient?
Only the wise are foolish, and only the foolish are wise, and everything turns completely upside down. And what they call knowledge, right? Well, we have all of this knowledge of God. No, you don't have knowledge, because knowledge is another thing that's a little different than what they define.
Yep.
Knowledge is demonstrable. It's not just something you believe. It's not just, that you understand the myths or whatever. To have knowledge means that you have information that you can show to be correct.
Right.
Right. It's justified belief. So you can, when I say that I know something, it means I can show that I know that I'm correct. And if you can't show it, then you don't know it.
Right.
But this is all that religion does, is profess to know things that nobody knows.
Right.
And nobody even can know. So, I mean, the core of it is just to lie to people, because it is dishonest to assert as fact that which is not evidently true. And there's no part of any religion that is evidently true, except for my statement that they're all false.
Yeah. Speaking of the $100 million falsehood that they just built, what fascinates me, the Ark project of our 6,000-year-old Earth. But actually this week, I'm sure you read about it, they found a 99-million-year-old baby dinosaur tail, complete with feathers.
Yep.
In
I had a
Myanmar.
most wonderful argument on the Ark about the velociraptors that they had in cages on their Ark, and pointing out, where are their feathers?
Right.
And somebody who's working for Answers in Genesis says, what do you mean? And it says, every dromaeosaurid has feathers. And he's confused about that. And I didn't press the issue as much as I wanted to. Which kind are they then?
Right.
Because according to the Bible, you've got birds. Birds are not just a kind. There's different kinds of birds in the Bible. The Bible says there's different kinds, and there's all sorts of birds within different kinds, or maybe it's within different kinds. Who knows? The Bible doesn't explain anything because the human authors didn't understand anything.
Know. Yeah.
So if you've got dinosaurs who have feathers, what kind are they? Are they beasts? Are they birds? Because they're pretty. There's a lot of dinosaurs. People don't know this because they don't know about paleontology, but there's a lot of species of dinosaurs that are virtually indistinguishable from birds. Yeah. There's such a long period of overlap that you've got really, really bird-like dinosaurs, and then you've got really dinosaurian birds. But I mean, where's the division? It's hard to tell. There's some like Podipteryx zooey, for example, that nobody can say. Is it a bird? Is it a dinosaur?
I like how you talk about
no division.
But each side is 100% sure that there's no transition. It's this camp or that, but it's definitely not in the middle.
Right.
So I really did. I really encourage people to at least take a look at this book, take a look at some of the reviews, see if you're interested. Yeah. It has a wealth of, even as somebody who's interested in this stuff and done some reading, this has a whole wealth of stuff that I haven't read, and it's great material in there. So
once, I'm sorry, because I know you have a question, but I read something about a biology project where they had manipulated the genes of the chicken embryos, and then their beaks developed tiny little serrated edges. Like teeth.
Teeth-like items?
Yeah, teeth-like.
They actually found, do have a gene, a dormant gene in chickens that'll produce real teeth, not just serrations in the beaks. This is at the embryonic stage. They can't get anything that makes it all the way to the point of hatching and still have teeth,
right? Because
it's such a recessive trait. But there are recessive traits there, and one of the other definitive ones is the length of the tail. If you've got tail, long tail with vertebrae, because no modern bird has that. And when I mentioned, for example, Podipteryx zooey, it's in such a transition period on its tail that they can't decide whether it's a dinosaur or a bird because it has a bit of a tail there. So it gets a little weird when you have what they just discovered in amber, where you've got a dinosaur tail, the one appendage birds don't have, or modern birds don't have, and yet it's covered in feathers.
Right.
So if there was any portion, you would lose almost any other portion and find it in amber, and you wouldn't be able to tell if it's a dinosaur or a bird, because we have birds in the fossil record that have teeth. We have birds in the fossil record that have unfused wing fingers with claws on them.
Wow.
We've got all of these other things, but the one thing they don't have, the definitive one, is the tail, and that's what they found in the amber, and that's stellar, because how do you still maintain that birds did not evolve from dinosaurs? This is such a clear evolution. This is undeniable at this point.
So books will be rewritten. Yeah.
or you just get the right ones into the school and you don't address it.
And what's nice about this is, they figured this out A long time ago. I mean, Charles Darwin made the suggestion that he and Huxley recognized that birds and dinosaurs had the exact same legs, and he got into an argument with all of the scientists of his day, wherein he proved the point that this is not just convergence, this is not just coincidental. This is a fundamental synapomorphy. I mean, this is something that is distinctly related. And none of these people want to argue their different classification systems that they had in their little presuppositions in their mind, and they wouldn't let go of this. And then Darwin comes up and says, well, here's a way to prove it. If birds actually evolved from dinosaurs, and we should find in the fossil record, because all modern birds have these wing fingers that look to be fused together, there should be a bird in the fossil record that has unfused wing fingers. And of course, Archaeopteryx lithographica that they found 2 years later while Darwin was still alive that vindicated his theory. It proved it. So how long ago was this? This is like 1861.
1860s,
Yeah, I mean, and we're still arguing over this now. Why? Because we have people with blinders on and earplugs saying, "No, I don't want to. I want to believe what I want to believe, even though I know it can't really be true." And I want to lie to everybody else's kids, and I want to stifle their ability to do critical thinking to make sure they don't understand things, so they don't question my authority, so that every generation is stupider than the one before.
So, given that a lot of people just ignore these mountains of evidence, and you spell a lot of them out here in your book, how do we get society to the point where they can absorb some of this, they're interested, and maybe you can talk about, does that tie in, to what you do as an educator, and does that tie into why you're running for state senate?
I'm running for state senate because everything's gotten so chaotic. I mean, the looming administration looks like it was assembled by Mad Magazine.
I'm done.
That's our joke of the week.
I'm done. I'm taking my mic off, and I'm going. Go ahead. Sorry.
This is just so crazy. I mean, and a lot of people are, say that they want to flee to Canada and everything. Well, no, I was fortunate enough to be in Texas when this fight started, and I'm kind of going to have to stay here because I feel compelled to do something about it. And if I can't do anything about it, there's really nowhere I can run anyway. Because this weird alt-right kind of backward thinking is infecting the whole rest of the planet. And the way I see it is, maybe these are the end times, just a little different than what they,
just a little different.
Different than what the Christians thought it was. But I think, the world's got to end at some point anyway. So, I mean, we either turn everything around right now through some dramatic means, or it's our own extinction. And the world's got to end sometime. I've just embraced the fact that, okay, we've elected the Marmalade Mussolini, and we've got a creationist now that's in charge. Mike Pence, who wants to teach intelligent design, and then, as I said, you've got an oil baron in charge of charge of energy, and somebody else is similar, oil baron in charge of destroying the EPA, the Environmental Protection. Well, what the hell is wrong with this?
One of them said.
When they realize, that they want to say that global climate change is not really happening, but then the polar ice caps melt, right? And then they say, well, that's just God opening up other places for us to drill for oil.
There you go. That's glass half full. That's glass half full. You have to think of it positive. One of them said that, of course, climate change is no big deal because the sun will expand and kill us all anyway.
On the cosmic scale of time.
On the cosmic scale of time in about 5 billion years.
No, and another thing I'd throw in and maybe get some of your comments on are, to me, this didn't just emerge out of nowhere.
No.
Back even with like the Reagan days, when they started, you have an actor, you'll say one thing and do something else. You'll name, we did this under Bush constantly. The Clean Air Act means you can now pollute the air. So like everything, we have all this Orwellian doublespeak. And we had Newt Gingrich took out the advisory committee of science inside the Congress. We've been brewing this for 30 years, haven't we? I mean, do you see Trump as a ridiculous anomaly or the natural progression of our breakdown of critical thinking?
It really is. It started from the grassroots. It started like about the time that Reagan was elected. Just when I first became an activist, to go back to your original question, is because I was talking to religious people online who were bragging about the judges and senators that they had positioned, that their church congregations had voted the way their pastors told them to, which of course
that's illegal, isn't it?
I know it's illegal, but every church does this, don't they?
Oh my gosh.
And now, what does Mike Pence want to do? He wants to take away what was the Johnson provision? So that churches can just openly tell their congregations to vote for whoever they tell them to vote for.
Oh, we're doomed.
Again, glass half full. They're just trying to be honest now.
No, we're doomed.
And say what they're doing.
Are we doomed? We're doomed, aren't we?
We are doomed. We are in fact doomed, and it's so upsetting because I was so hopeful a few months ago that we were going to elect somebody that was going to bring us up to speed with the rest of the country. I've been to 22 other countries this year, and I've seen how other countries do so many things better than we do.
Yes.
Right. So much more efficient, so much more conscious and aware. And people are saying, well, what technology? We need to have this oil pipeline because we have no options to feed our cars and everything. I'm like, we got electric cars. We don't have enough lithium in the world to make all the batteries. Yes, we do. They don't now have to be Teslas because when I was in Norway, we have a whole lot of electric cars that are not Teslas. It can be done. There's an intelligent way to do this, and a lot of other people are doing it, and we're just not doing the intelligent thing. On purpose, we're not doing the intelligent thing. Don't get me started on environmentalism, because that is even more depressing than what we've got in Congress right now.
Oh, thank you. I feel so much better than I felt an hour ago. No, but
the thing is to go around with your fingers in the ears and just pretend that nothing you do matters or has any impact, that you can't see beyond the next fiscal quarter. And somehow you're deprived of all your responsibility by your religious beliefs because you don't actually have to help anybody. You can just wish upon a star that they get the help that they need.
Right.
You don't have to be accountable, or you don't have to atone for anything you've done wrong, because all you got to do is pretend that your magic imaginary friend has forgiven you, and so you don't have to serve a sentence or do anything to rectify whatever you've done. And you don't have to be responsible for the planet either, because you're supposed to dominate and subdue and be fruitful and multiply.
Right.
And you're supposed to chew up and destroy the earth and bring as many souls unto the Lord as you possibly can. So have as many babies as you can, because 7 billion people overfishing the oceans is not enough. We need to bring in more, and then we don't have to worry about the world we leave for our family or our heirs, because we won't have heirs, because again, the flying man in the sky is going to show up and destroy everything anyway and save us all from ourselves and our hopelessly irresponsible behaviors.
So, do you think, in Texas, all right, and I can't speak because I live in the East, I live in this area, the East Coast. It's a world away, it seems. But do you think that there's at least a budding need for free thought for people like you? Do you think there are people, because the stereotype of Texas is that they're always backwards. But when I talk to Texans, it doesn't seem that way, especially with you. Do you think it's going to go away anytime soon?
The reason that you have so many atheist activists in Texas is because we have every level of our state government is run by Christian dominionists. Now, when I go to the East Coast, when I go out to the Northeast, as they put it, then people are rather apathetic about all that. Well, just let people believe what they want to believe.
Because we're safe.
What harm could come from it? And I'm experiencing the harm that will come from it.
Right.
And in January, you will experience that too.
Yeah. It's like, as I used to say, I'm nice and safe and insular here in my little blue state, where we have, comprehensive sex ed, and we have, laws and things like that. But, the rest of the country, I cannot ignore it, and I cannot ignore it.
Right, and it's hard to put ourselves in that position.
Yeah.
So do you think that this is, I hate to call any of our politics stuff now an opportunity, but do you think that this is going to be such a wake-up call? And we're already seeing all the staff that's coming on, the cabinet that's being assembled. Do you think in 2 years, if we wake up, that we can still change things in a meaningful way? Or is it going to be so jerry-rigged at that time that we're,
just give up.
that's a very bad road?
Yeah.
There's not, this was a critical moment.
Yeah.
I want to be hopeful, but there was not a way to fix the crossroads that we're at. And we chose the wrongest direction to go.
Yeah, we did.
I love that word, wrongest.
I heard you did.
Yeah, I've heard the word wronger used a number of times by professional academics, but only when they're talking about creationism.
Do they say wronger?
So was there anything hopeful? I heard the dogma debate that you did with Larry Decker. And I was, like many people, we were waiting and hoping for any glimmer of hope. Did you take anything out of that that's hopeful, or just all bleak?
I'm pragmatic. I have a positive outlook on most things. I look at the best that I possibly can. and we're in a bad situation. And no matter what we do, if Trump has any period in power at all, he's only going to make things dramatically worse.
Yeah.
We didn't have 4 years to give this guy for him to expand on the coal industry. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
And so there is going to be severe damage as a result of him having just 4 years in power. And that's just on the environmental scale. I mean, he's going to do long-term permanent damage to a lot of different aspects of this country. The United States that I was proud of is no more and hasn't been for a while. The American dream is just that. It was never realized. It was a nice goal, but not even the goal doesn't exist in the current situation.
You know, we had John Fugelsang and Roger Weisberg did a big project on the American Dream. I think it's called Dream On. They did some stuff with. This was before all the Trump stuff, and yeah, it is so heartbreaking. And I'd be curious to talk to them in the aftermath of this. You know, how do we forge a path forward? Because the reality is we're going to have what we have, and we can still mitigate harm to some degree. So I think a lot of us see just a huge assembly of bad things that we're going to only have limited power to stop. At the same point, we do want to erect whatever infrastructure we can to mitigate harm and to limit the damage. So so things get better sooner than later, or just do what we can. But it's very important we don't just get hopeless, despondent, and not do anything. And I applaud you that you're running for the state senate and do what you can. Do you want to tell us anything about the educational programs
instead of curling up like I am?
Yeah, well, a lot of us want to. No, so another
the way
big,
I see it,
another big thing we have to do is approach education. Can you tell us how you and Lilandra approach that?
Yeah.
My wife is a curriculum specialist with the Next Generation Science Standards. That's the national standard. So we've been working on a series of videos that teach the things that the students are going to be tested on in biology in middle school and high school. And we're trying to be sequential with all of those standards, actually putting the numbered standards in place. But we are unapologetically including evolution, endosymbiosis, deep time. Wherever these things are relevant in any of the lessons, they're in there. We're not glossing off or ignoring them. And what I would like to see is a standardized education where instead of different states doing different things and different schools within different cities teaching different things, so that you don't know what your kid knows when he comes out of their school. I want standards that you had 7th grade, that you were taught everything that 7th graders should understand by the time you get to 8th grade.
Right.
Regardless what state you go to.
Right.
It should be standardized. But of course, the
states'
religious
rights.
Religious rights. Religious right doesn't want any of that. But then try to look at anything and you'll see that the solution, the working solution, is to do the exact opposite of whatever the religious right wants to do. Right? Whether it is legalizing marijuana, what we do about the environment, practically anything, really. I mean, the way that we treat education, everything. Let's deregulate all of the industries, and let's just assume that corporations will acquire a morality that they
out of the goodness of their hearts.
That they never had before.
Right.
Now that they're people, they may evolve a heart.
They may evolve a heart. You have no idea. It may even have 4 chambers. But
well, as they say, here in Texas, I'll believe that corporations are people when Texas executes one.
That should not have made me laugh as much as it did. So I had. I'm sorry. Okay, serious now. And one more question about especially education and what the big discussion with this election was, the whole fake news thing and people believing what they want, the Dunning-Kruger effect, people thinking they're smart. And of course, people who are atheists are also some of the most disliked people in the country.
But why is that?
Hey, don't ask me. I think we're awesome.
How are we the ones not to be trusted? We're the ones who do not believe the impossible nonsense. We're the ones who are not saying that I'm going to believe what I want to believe, and that doesn't matter what the truth is. We're the ones who actually want to understand things.
That's why I wanted to ask you.
We can do something no religion can do. We can improve our understanding.
Right. Because that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. Is there anything that we as atheists, as non-believers, as secularists can do to get people to say, listen, we're not here to tear down your religion. We're just here to ask you to think about things a little bit more objectively. What can we do? Because.
All right. Well, I'm probably not the guy to talk to because I am there to tear down the religion. There's no point in lying.
You're not supposed to tell them that.
There's no point in lying to other people's kids. That's just wrong. That's immoral.
This is true.
Okay. When you're going to teach something in school, let's teach what we can prove to be true. And yes, we can prove that evolution is true on many different means. And every time you get into this, well, how come there's no transitional species? Oh, yes, there are.
How come they're still monkeys?
And when you find yourself repeating the same thing that you already told that guy, it's not even a different person anymore that you have to visit back where you already did it with that guy. What the hell didn't you learn from that lesson?
Right.
So I want to jump in a little different direction, but it's really very closely tied to this. You recently traveled to San Antonio to meet with Anthony Magnabosco and get some training in street epistemology.
Yes.
And the goal of that is really to take a different approach, to help people understand the importance of a good underlying epistemic system or a good way to understand the world that focuses less on the beliefs than the underlying system. I want to get some of your thoughts on that. Where you see that fitting into your tool set, where you see it does. I think there's some areas that it doesn't work, and where your style, is really important. You're not letting people slide in a public forum where it's important that you call them out and that your wide audience sees it. Yeah. Street epistemology is a little more geared for one-on-one. But anyway, so I'd like to hear about your experience and how you see that fitting in with what you do in the future.
Yeah.
What I like about street epistemology is it is a grassroots thing. That if this practice spreads, then you're going to help people undo the damage that our culture is doing. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you're indoctrinating children, you're teaching them the exact opposite of what you should be teaching, which is how to be critical thinking, how to understand things. Well, no, we're trying lessons in homeschools now to try and reinforce faith and cause people to think along the lines of faith. We're doing exactly the opposite of everything we're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And street epistemology actually has a way to reverse some of that, or at least slow down some of that grassroots aspect. And the reason that I have to be a bulldog is because I'm not talking to the average person on the street. I'm talking to the people in power who are deliberately distorting everything on purpose, knowing full well that what they're doing is dishonest. Right. I'm challenging those people.
Yep, and that's an enormous difference. I think Anthony and Peter Boghossian will acknowledge that it's really important for street epistemology to work. You need an honest interlocutor. You need somebody that's actually interested in exchanging information and trying to learn, and not just a professional apologist. So I think that's a great point. And I really see both of those prongs as being really important.
Where's the line between street epistemology and the apologist? You know what I mean?
Well, you mean who can you use it on?
Who can you use? Yeah. No, I'm asking you guys. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, Lauren, you want to feel that? So street epistemology is using that.
Okay, what I want to do is I want to call out religion on all of its safe ground, because they've got all this safe ground. They've got where it's culturally, as this came up earlier, if you lie to other people's kids and you tell them about this old magical thinking and everything, they're fine. You're fine. It doesn't even matter if you tell them about the wrong religion. At least you're telling them to believe garbage for no reason.
Hey, good control.
I had to search through my thesaurus for an alternate word there. But when you tell somebody the truth,
right,
then you violated their rights somehow.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow you're the bad guy for telling something that you can prove is actually correct.
Yeah.
But as long as you're lying to them, well, then you're forgiven. How is that justified?
Right, and I would say that anybody that ever criticizes you for hurting feelings from that aspect needs to look at what our political situation is now, what is going to come from the next generation, and weigh out, is it more important to not hurt somebody's feelings or to get us in a reality-based world so we don't have a disaster for these 7 billion people on the planet?
Because it seems like a lot of that culture is all about protecting feelings and the feel-goods and the, it's scary to think.
Yeah. Now, I
told you, I'm the wrong guy to ask that question, because I'm all about the freedom of religion. I'm all about the First Amendment. Nobody defends the First Amendment better than atheist activists.
Yeah.
However, while you have the right to believe whatever makes sense to you, because the free thought people are not going to be the ones who are endorsing the thought police. The thought police are actually coming from the religious right.
Yeah.
All right. The free thought people have a completely different aspect. But I completely lost where I was going with this.
I'll jump in because I half lost mine. I want to make the clear point.
Oh my God! No, it's like the inmates are running the asylum here. Go ahead.
We're the madmen running this, aren't we?
Yeah.
No, I want to say with street epistemology, it's really important to realize that that also is 100% honest. It's not like you let people slide.
Yeah, you can't.
What it is, though, is it's that the focus, instead of being on the belief, is on the underlying system. And so you try to avoid the backlash. Like if you say, hey, that God is silly, people just hunker down, they don't want to hear it. Some
Exactly.
people, I'm not talking apologists.
I remember where I was going with that.
Okay.
You have a right to believe.
Go back.
You have a right to believe whatever makes sense to you, right?
Right.
We're not going to impede that, but you don't have a right to get special privileges.
Absolutely.
Because you pretend, because that's what belief is. In the context of religious belief, it really is an act of will, of mind over matter, the power of positive thought. Where there's a will, there's a way, right? You can just make yourself believe, and that's what it's all about, is making people believe. It's make-believe. It's pretend. All of it is pretend, right? You can change any part of reality if you just believe hard enough, if you just have enough faith. That is, we're talking about pretend, right? But then when they start saying, well, I pretend to believe in this fairy elf, and so this gives me the right to defy laws that apply to everybody else that no longer apply to me. I have special privileges because I claim to belong to this weird belief system that enables me or gives me special privileges. It's like there was a story a couple of years back where this girl gets a job at in a government office, and she knows that there's no weapons allowed at that government office. So after she gets hired and after she starts work, then she raises the stink that she is a Sikh.
Oh,
and
no,
they,
the dagger.
And they have this dagger.
Yeah.
It's not a ceremonial dagger. This is something that by their religion, they have to have this because they're the ones who are responsible for saving everybody should there be an armed conflict. So she has to have her weapon on her. And it doesn't matter what the laws are. No, in my America, you believe whatever you want, but nobody gets special privileges.
Right.
Yeah, that means that if ganja is illegal, it's illegal for the Rastafarians. It doesn't matter.
Right.
What your beliefs are, and I want to call them out on every other thing too.
Right.
Because why is it that that the atheists are the most hated ones, but the people who believe that snakes can talk?
It's funny when you say it like that, but it's true.
Well, I think it's actually a really important question, because it's not by accident that atheists are the least trusted ones, right? And if you said, are scientists trusted? Sure. Are teachers pretty well trusted? How about the kid that was pretty logical that you copied off of? Its atheism was branded, right, in a really bad way, tied into communism. The great irony here, as we look at all the dealings with Russia, where is that whole, right wing saying, wait a second, Russia's involved, we got to back off this.
They painted us as commies to make it easier to dislike us.
So
there you go.
Yeah. So take away all the religious privilege, all the religious privilege.
I agree.
If I were in charge, things would be so much reverse of what they are now. Not only would we not have a Dakota pipeline, we would be running, all our cars would be emission free in a year. We would be having solar stations and wind generator stations and the other devices that use the tides to generate power. We'd have all clean energy. Right, the food industry would be completely revamped. We'd be doing everything exactly opposite of the way the right wing is doing it.
Right.
And what I'm thinking, and this, call me foolish, call me irresponsible, but I'm thinking that in this time of having madmen in office,
right,
in all of because there are more Republican governors across the state than there are Democrats, right? We've got the religious right has infiltrated and taken over everything. So,
I have a question.
What?
No, I'm saying I have a question.
Okay, well, hold one
No,
second.
go ahead.
If we've got all three branches of federal government that are run by these right-wing Christian dominionists, we're going to have 4 years of this, or at least 2. We have 2 years of this, and then we get the midterm election, which for some reason the political left never votes in the midterm elections.
Exactly.
Yes, please go out and vote in the midterm. Vote for the down ticket, because those are the people that are taking over everything. This is actually really more important than just the president. If you had all voted the right people in on the down ticket, it wouldn't matter if you put a psychopath at the top. Because we would have controls in effect, right? But that's not what we got. So I'm expecting that 2 years from now, people are going to say that we've had all three branches of federal government run by Christian dominionists, and they're going to be finally fed up with all of this one-sided nonsense. And that's where somebody like me might actually win a down ticket election.
Right.
And I'm not changing anything.
Right.
I'm hoping that being as outrageous as I am actually plays to my favor, because how can it fail? What can it
Right. That's
right?
Yeah, I don't know how you read my mind. That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Is there an expiration date? Well, we only have a few minutes left. I was going to say, is there an expiration date? When are people going to get fed up with this Christian dominionism and be like, you know what? Maybe the atheists were right the whole time. Do you think there's a time limit on this? Or this is just the beginning of the revolution?
That depends again on education, which the religious right wants to destroy, and it depends on the internet, which the religious right wants to inhibit, and it depends on controlling information, and it depends on brainwashing the young before they can think critically, so that they never can develop that ability.
Yeah.
It is very disturbing, and it does seem very gloomy, and it's so frustrating that we were right on the verge of having all of this clean energy and having free college tuition to enhance education. We were right on the verge of all these wonderful Bernie things, and then somehow or other the table flipped over, and we have an orange Hitler.
Yeah, all right. So we've got 3 minutes after Orange Hitler. I couldn't agree more. I mean, everybody was pretty crushed by how close we were to great things, and now where we sit. I'd mentioned the 2 new podcasters we have at the beginning. You just did a show with them about the Dakota Pipeline. I want you to tell me how you came across them first, because those are some fabulous shows that they're doing. And then tell us about everything going on with the Dakota Pipeline.
Well, I can't tell you everything that's going on with it.
All right, well, tell us 2 minutes worth.
2 minutes worth.
Well, it seems that here we live in a situation where we know that the Democratic Republic. Oh, shut up!
Go ahead.
Hey, be friendly.
Bad dogs.
Yeah, forgive me, I have dogs.
That's okay.
And they hear noises that have to be barked at. Oh, where were we?
Dakota Pipeline and Justin Jeremy.
Yeah, what we've got is a situation where the United States government is run by corporations. This is not even a secret anymore. Everybody knows that, or everybody should know by now, that this is no longer the political process. We're run by corporations, and now we have where the United Nations has said this pipeline is dangerous. It should be stopped.
Right.
We have the Army Corps of Engineers and the president saying, let's hold off on this, and we have the corporation saying, no, we will do whatever we want to do. We own you, and we're going to have the police service as our military, and then we're going to take your military, and we will support, and they will be corporate police, and it no longer matters what we the people have to say about anything.
Oh wow! Well, thank you so much. I mean, if somebody wanted to look up more about what you say, we can direct them to your website, to your channel, because we only have a few seconds left here.
Yeah, well, where can people find you? Tell us places people can look.
I blog on Patheos.org under Reason Advocates, and of course my YouTube channel is Aron Ra, and well, there's so much more I can say, but I don't have any more time, so I'll just let that go.
No, you're just fine.
I do everything I do. I'm a full-time political activist, and I'm funded on Patreon. So please, if you can donate a little bit, patreon.com.
Yeah, again, we do have to be careful with the money stuff. But certainly, we do want you to go look out, see the kind of stuff that Aron's doing if you're interested, and find him that way and do it.
And we want to say thank you so much for joining us. This has been a great episode, and I'm very happy you were able to come. And I encourage people to check out your website, check out your book, and check out your YouTube page. And so, Rob, do you have anything to say in our last 30 seconds?
This was really a pleasure, and we really appreciate your time. We have some great guests coming up. We're going to have Royce Beckhart is on in January. He's the director for American Humanist Association. August Brunsman is the director for Secular Student Alliance. Will be on, I think, in February. And David Niosi, a major lawyer for American Humanist Association, will be on in March. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Check us out on Facebook. Let us know what else you want to see.
Bye.